Some breaking news here. A judge has ruled against Rudy Giuliani in a defamation case brought by Georgia poll workers Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman. There will be another trial date to determine the amount of damages that Giuliani will have to pay, but he's already been ordered to pay $90,000 in attorney's fees for Moss and Freeman. But the fact that Giuliani lost this defamation lawsuit isn't exactly surprising. He actually conceded in court that he, quote, does not contest that the assertions he made about Freeman and Moss orchestrating some scheme to manipulate the vote count in Georgia, quote, were false. His court filing went on to say, defendant Giuliani concedes solely for the purposes of this litigation that defendant Giuliani made the statements of and concerning plaintiffs. He does not dispute for the purposes of this litigation that the statements carry meaning that is defamatory per se. In other words, he admitted to defamation in a defamation case. So of course he's forfeiting this case, what with there quite literally being no defense. But that raises the question, why? What's Giuliani's strategy here? One theory is that he was trying to avoid discovery in this case. He was afraid of what he was going to be forced to disclose in discovery, and so by conceding that he defamed the women, that put a stop to discovery, and the question just becomes one of damages. So if you're wondering whether Giuliani has something to hide, I think the answer has now become obvious. And Judge Howell agreed, writing, perhaps he has made the calculation that his overall litigation risks are minimized by not complying with the discovery obligations in this case. Whatever the reason, obligations are case-specific and withholding required discovery in this case has consequences. Yet, just as taking shortcuts to win an election carries risks, even potential criminal liability, bypassing the discovery process carries serious sanctions no matter what the reservations a non-compliant party may try to artificially preserve for appeal. Meaning that Giuliani might have tried to protect himself in this case and other ongoing criminal cases by limiting discovery, but that didn't come without consequences, as he'll now be hit with sanctions commensurate with his actions. Judge Howell continued with this blow, writing, donning a cloak of victimization may play well on a public stage to certain audiences, but in a court of law this performance has served only to subvert the normal process of discovery in a straightforward defamation case, which I presume is judge speak for your bullshit isn't going to work in here. But to that point of other ongoing criminal proceedings, there's also this strategy put forward by Giuliani that he'll concede the defamation and avoid discovery, but that his concession would be limited to civil litigation and not criminal litigation. Again, his court filing said, quote, defendant Giuliani concedes solely for the purposes of this litigation, meaning he doesn't want it to count for any other cases, especially criminal cases. Only small problem, that's not a thing. A defamation concession in a civil case can be introduced in a separate criminal case, meaning Giuliani's admission here in this defamation case can be introduced in the Fulton County criminal case against him. He might want this concession to be confined to this case, but that's not how it works, meaning Giuliani may very well have played himself. But you know what they say, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. But let's not forget what these defamatory statements actually did to Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman. Let's not forget the human element in all of this. This was the attorney for the most powerful person on the planet, scapegoating these two poll workers because he was that desperate to try to cry fraud to find a justification to undermine a presidential election. And he decided that destroying the lives of these two women who were doing their patriotic duty was a price that he was willing to have them pay. This is Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman at the January 6th committee hearings.
Ms. Moss, can you describe what you experienced listening to former President Trump attack you and your mother in a call with the Georgia Secretary of State?
I felt horrible. I felt like it was all my fault. Like, if I would have never decided to be an elections worker, like, I could have done anything else, but that's what I decided to do. And now people are lying and spreading rumors and lies and attacking my mom. I'm her only child. Going to my grandmother's house. I'm her only grandchild. And my kid. It's just, I felt so bad. I just felt bad for my mom, and I felt horrible for picking this job and being the one that always wants to help and always there, and never missing out one election. I just felt like it was my fault for putting my family in this situation.
Well, it wasn't your fault. Your mother was kind enough to come speak with us earlier. Let's listen to her story in her words.
My name is Ruby Freeman. I've always believed that when God says that he'll make your name great, but this is not the way it was supposed to be. I could have never imagined the events that followed the presidential election 2020. For my entire professional life, I was Lady Ruby. My community in Georgia, where I was born and lived my whole life, knew me as Lady Ruby. I built my own business around that name, La Ruby's Unique Treasures, a pop-up shop catering to ladies with unique fashions. I wore a shirt that proudly proclaimed that I was, and I am, Lady Ruby. Actually, I had that shirt on. I had that shirt in every color. I wore that shirt on Election Day 2020. I haven't worn it since, and I'll never wear it again. Now I won't even introduce myself by my name anymore. I get nervous when I bump into someone I know in the grocery store who says my name. I'm worried about who's listening. I get nervous when I have to give my name for food orders. I'm always concerned of who's around me. I've lost my name, and I've lost my reputation. I've lost my sense of security, all because a group of people, starting with number 45 and his ally, Rudy Giuliani, decided to scapegoat me and my daughter, Shay, to push their own lies about how the presidential election was stolen.
If that doesn't break your heart, then you might not have one. Which is why the damages that Rudy will be forced to pay is the bare minimum of justice for these women. Of course, it still remains to be seen whether he'll actually be able to pay it, considering these impending damages only add to Giuliani's financial troubles. According to recent reporting, the disgraced New York City mayor recently traveled to Mar-a-Lago to personally appeal to Donald Trump to pay his legal bills. According to that same reporting, Trump didn't seem all that interested. According to a CNN source, Trump has thus far only agreed to cover a small fee from a data vendor hosting Giuliani's records. Months later, Trump's PAC paid that vendor. Giuliani's attorney even appeared in court this month and told a New York State judge that his client didn't have the money to pay additional legal costs associated with his Smartmatic lawsuit, claiming financial hardship. I don't know. I'm starting to think that throwing your life away for a notorious con man might not have been the most lucrative strategy for Rudy Giuliani. So now we'll await the amount of damages that Giuliani will have to pay, which I should note can never be high enough to compensate for what he knowingly did to Seamus and Ruby Freeman. He took away their safety and their happiness, all because, again, he needed a scapegoat while lying about non-existent fraud, all for the express purpose of trying to anoint the loser of the election the winner. It is a pure, abject, unadulterated con. If Giuliani ends this process with even a dime in his pocket, that'll be too much. But again, all the money in the world isn't worth the pain that he's caused as the result of this misguided crime spree. Before you go, I need some help. Please subscribe to the channel and do your part to help grow the progressive media ecosystem. I don't do sponsorships or paid ads, I won't ask for money, but just subscribing to this channel goes a really long way, and it helps get the message out to more people. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. You can also subscribe to my Spanish language channel, which I made to reach those crucial Spanish-speaking voters. That link is on the screen too. And finally, if you want to listen to my audio podcast, you can follow that link as well. Thanks so much for watching.